Good day. Welcome to the 2021 General Election Candidates Forum for Kansas City, Kansas and Wyandotte County. I am Merle Bland with Business West. Business West and Kansas City, Kansas Community College are the sponsors of the forum. Let me introduce the panelists who will ask questions of the candidates. They are Mary Rupert, the editor of the Wyandotte Daily Online, J.D. Rios, a retired administrator with the Kansas City, Kansas School District, and Eleanor Jefferson, a community volunteer with Groundwork Northeast Revitalization Group. Candidates will have 2 minutes to make opening remarks. Then the panelists will ask questions known only to them. Candidates will have 2 minutes to respond. Panelists have the right for follow-up questions. Candidates will have 1 minute for closing remarks. Please understand this is not a debate. Candidates are urged to focus on the issues. The forum is being taped for playback in the college's public access channels and YouTube. So, welcome candidates. We'll move to initial remarks, and we'll first call on Maxine Drew. Maxine, your opening remarks.
Thank you. I'd like to say good evening to everyone, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here. First of all, I am a product of Wyandotte County. I was born and raised here, graduated from Sumner High School, and attended KCK Junior College for a couple of years, and then graduated from Park University. I taught in the school district for 35 years, mainly 33 of those years at West Middle School, teaching social studies. I retired in 2013 and have become a part of the school district 4 years ago, being elected. I have really tried to do the best that I can as a person to be able to understand what is necessary for us to do in order to be able to educate our students. One of the things that I have learned to do is to listen during my first 2 years there and learn exactly what I need to be responsive to. I am an avid supporter of KASB, whereas I went through the training to be able to learn what I need to do. My main thing is to make sure that I understand the vision and the goals and the policies of our school district so that we can move forward to bring about success, to try not to overlook the challenges, but be able to make sure that the opportunities for our students within the district is great, and then also to try to incorporate ways in which we can help our staff to be more eligible in order to be able to receive the best that they can do to be able to do their jobs. Thank you.
Next, we'll move to Rachel Henderson. Rachel.
Thank you, Mr. Bland, and thank you all for putting this event on tonight. My name is Rachel Henderson. Oftentimes folks hear me referred to as Rachel Russell. Either is fine, but on the ballot you will see Rachel Henderson, so vote Rachel on November 2nd. I am not originally from the DOT. However, I believe strongly that the DOT made me. I moved to Wyandotte County as a young girl, around the age of 10, 11, and so I am very DOT proud. And so I graduated from Piper High School in 2007. I have played an active role in the community, whether it be in PTA. I attended KCKCC for my undergrad. And so I know the value that our community has, and the opportunities that our students in the classroom can have should we allow ourselves to re-envision the way that we see 21st century education and beyond. I am running on numerous priorities and platforms, but just a couple of them is to ensure that we continue to elevate the voice of parents, community, and students to truly guide us as we are public officials, and we are the voice of the community. And so how do we continue as a school board to elevate that, but also to make sure that we are truly making sure that our students are the best that they can be in the future, not only if it is here in KCK, Wyandotte County proud, but what it looks like when they go outside of our community. We want to make sure that our kids can compete with their peers in different geographic locations throughout the country, but also throughout the world. So I'm excited to be here tonight and answer some of your questions and vote Rachel on November 2nd.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll hear from Angeline Howell. Your opening remarks, Angeline.
Thing turned on. Okay, can you see me now? Okay. Hi, I'm Angeline Howell. I am a graduate of Wyandotte High School, class of '83. I have a degree in human resources management and an associate's degree in accounting. My mom was a retired teacher here at the district for 18 years. I am running as the voice for students and parents, giving them a seat at the board table to have a right and the possibility to know what also is going on at the board. I am also running for a 21st century curriculum so that all of our students are learning the same thing no matter what grade they're in. So if you're in 10th grade, all of your English classes, no matter what school you're at, will be teaching the same 10th grade education. I am also running for financial and fiscal accountability at the district to see where the money is going and to make sure that our students are getting the proper education that they deserve. And I just want to be there so that we, parents and community people, know exactly what's going on and to continue to have meetings with the community monthly so that I can inform them as to what is going on. So I am Angeline Howell, running for school board for your voice at the table. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Wanda Brownlee Page. Wanda?
Thank you, Mr. Bland, and I'd like to thank the questioners today for giving us an opportunity to come and share quickly a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Wyandotte County, attended school in the USD 500 school district, graduating from Wyandotte High School class of '74. From there, I went to Simpson College, where I got a degree in history in 1978, and then went on to the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, where I have an MST in social studies. I have 30 hours in adult education from Drake University, and then I also have an additional 15 hours from K-State in ESL. I had the privilege of teaching in the district as well. I taught for 24 years at Argentine Middle School, 1 year at Coronado, and my last 5 years were at Central Middle School. I wanted to do something after I retired to see if I could work in some way to improve our educational system. And after volunteering on different committees in the area, I finally decided maybe I need to run for the school board. And I strongly believe that students need a quality education, and I want to work to improve student achievement, strengthen the accountability of our school programs, improve communication with the community, improve parental involvement with our school district, and support social and emotional growth for our young people. Again, November 2nd, get on the right page, vote for Wanda Page. Thank you.
Okay. Dylan Todd, your opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Bland. And thank you, everybody, for putting this together. Really happy to be here today with everybody. So my name is Dylan Todd, and I'm running for USD 500 School Board. I'm seeking a seat on the board because we need a change and we need a voice from the dot. Everybody's here from the dot and has a lot of connections and roots. I also want to be part of that voice and change that's coming in and bring in a different perspective. I'm a recent alumni. I graduated from Sumner Academy, but I also went to Francis Willard and Argentine Middle School. Been working in our community since I was 12, 13 years old in internships with lots of different initiatives, and came back after graduating from KU in 2017 to continue working in our community in immigration services and also in voter engagement, and now do different projects throughout our community in Wyandotte County. One of the biggest things that I want to be able to bring forth and advocate for in the table of school board is to increase our mental health awareness and resources, reinvest in us, continue to bring more transparency and communication, and also to be the first naturalized Latina voice to be elected in our school board. We have over 51% of Hispanics in our school systems and also over 40 languages, home languages. And I want to be able to bring in that perspective of an immigrant and also all those different systems and pathways that we need to know in order to help first generation and mixed status families that are within our districts as well. Above that, I have fought for my own education, and I know exactly what we have to go through, and I know the feelings, again, being a recent graduate, and now I'm ready to fight for our generations to come. So thank you, and vote Tot on November 2nd.
Okay. Now we will move to the questions, and Mary Rupert, your question.
Thank you. Many students throughout the nation lost ground academically during the pandemic. What are your ideas to improve students' academic performance?
And we'll start with Dyslin Tot. Dyslin?
I think one of the biggest things is to be able to bring in resources that they need. I know I talked about mental health resources and awareness. And as you said, they've had rough years and they're still coming out of it. And we're still in the middle of it. There's still a lot of uncertainties of what's to come and how our normality is going to look within a couple of months here coming. So with all that, being able to bring in those resources that they're going to need, building those bridges, those connections, even having families. A lot of our families have stigmas within mental health and awareness. So being able to provide the information needed and bring in those organizations and community members that are already doing the work to be able to highlight and raise awareness on issues that we may not know about. Also within their academic achievement, being able to provide different opportunities for them. As you said, everybody's dealing with so many different outcomes from the pandemic and civil unrest and so much more that we should be able to provide different alternative ways that our children, our students can interact with our school districts and be able to get all the needs that they need with different instructions. And by that, I mean being able to provide different connections and leverage our connections to organizations to be able to provide programs after school to help them with either math or reading, or be able to provide them with experiences, hand-on experiences for them to further on engage once more and be able to see what else they can bring forward through the years that are coming forward.
Thank you. Wanda Page, your response.
Well, I think the first thing we're going to have to do is provide counseling. We do have money from our ESSER account that we can provide additional counseling and trauma-sensitive training for our young people to help them cope with what they just experienced. That first year was rough, but then to come back and be in it again and deal with the Delta variant, we do need to offer counseling, not only for our students, our teachers, and I think our families as well. We need to broaden our scope. We also need to recruit teachers so that we can reduce our student-teacher ratio to possibly 1-15 or no more than 20, but we do need to reduce the class sizes so that our teachers can work better with a smaller, intimate group. We also need to work in our HR department. We need to revamp it. It's had some problems, and I think if we revamp it and change it and get some people in who know what they're doing so that we can go out and recruit our staff, from the nutritional workers to the teachers, the counselors, what have you, I think we'll have an all-round better school, because that's been a source of one of our problems. But if we provide the counseling, provide enrichment programs after school, we have the money. We can have a chess club, give the kids something. We want to improve the academic. We got to work on that. But we also need to show them how to deal with stress and also provide that for their parents so that they can endure and sustain themselves. But if we recruit teachers, reduce our class sizes, provide the counseling, and work on our HR department, we can make a difference in our district, and also offer something to the parents, because they need help as well, and offer something to our teachers as well. This has been traumatic, and we got to change the way that we do things. This is 21st century learning, and we still operate like we're in the farming system. We got to change it around. We may at Washington used to have 2 different sessions, a morning and an evening. What's wrong with that? And we got to do some other extraordinary things to help our young people. We're still somewhat antiquated, but we got to step up to the 21st century.
Angeline Howell, your remarks. Angeline?
I know our students are behind and there's some improvement. They have a program that's online that is to help them to catch up. And maybe if we could maybe expand Wednesdays instead of them going home at 1:20 for the high school, maybe let them do a complete day and maybe a little bit of after school tutoring so that they can catch up and so that they can qualify to graduate on time. I know we have some students that are a whole year behind because they didn't even log on last year. And so I would say, for our students, that they have the opportunity to not only be online and take those classes that they've missed, but also be there at the school so that they can get the help that they need. Because just being online and trying to make up work doesn't necessarily mean that you know what you're doing if you don't have someone there to explain it to you and to help you. Our students have gotten behind because they don't have the support that they need. And the support, maybe even with their parents at home, even in the classroom with their teachers, maybe they're afraid to talk to their teachers and say, I just don't understand. I need some additional help, because they might feel like, it makes them look stupid or that they're not at the same level as everybody else. So if everybody's together saying, oh, I don't want to ask that question because I'm going to look stupid, we need to let our kids know that you're at school so that you can learn. That's what school is for, to learn and to be able to ask those questions, whether, everybody else is sitting there quiet or not. We have to empower our children to understand that education at school is just that, education, and that you need to learn, and that's what the teachers are being paid for. So I would say, increase our Wednesdays, even though I know that's not popular, but increase the Wednesdays so that, they have that additional time. And then even in the evening time, if you're really behind, then stay until that 5:30 bus comes and work with, some teachers that are willing to help you and to be there. They have teachers in the buildings that are willing to help our students. We just need to ask. We need to also let the kids know that it's okay to ask for help. That's what you're there for, to learn and to ask for the help that you need. So I'm saying definitely spend a little extra time with teachers and maybe have some parents come up so that they can feel like they're able to help their students at home. Because parents, these days are looking at some of this mad and say, whoa, I don't know what that mess is. But if we help them also to help their students, then, we're including everybody and not saying, okay, you're there at the house and we're here at the school. Everybody working together to help our kids to get to where they need to get to. And that's to graduate on time and to also be productive members of society. And you can't be that without a good education. So I'm saying we'll spend some extra time with our students.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Rachel Henderson. Rachel?
Thanks for this question. I will say, from a policy level, I believe that prior to the pandemic, we heard a lot of our teachers talking about, we're so busy teaching to the test. We're so busy trying to make sure that our kids are ready to take this. And so I think, from my perspective, what I would like to see is us challenge the systems that are in place. And when I say challenge, I'm more or less talking about advocating more for a systems change. So we know that our kids over the last 30 years have fallen underneath their peers in surrounding districts. So what policy changes at the state level, at the local level, do we need to make that kind of bring that barrier down a little bit? I don't know if many folks know, but our district is one of few districts that require our kids to have more credit hours than the rest of our surrounding districts. So how do we focus and be more intentional on building soft skills that make our students more attractable in the workforce, that make our students more attractable through hands-on learning experiences? How do we lessen the number of required hours so we can so-called make our students the best and make sure that they're truly ready to be able to be someone's assistant manager or to be someone's forklift driver? And so for me, it's looking at those policies that we've created that in big picture sound really great, but we continue to miss the bar, but we continue to have those as the bar that we've set. Additionally, like I mentioned, more hands-on opportunities, which includes internships and utilizing and leveraging the relationships with community partners to ensure that our students are getting that opportunity to see future jobs, to see themselves in positions, and we can utilize this 8-hour work day, which is a school day, is what I'm really trying to say, to really make sure that we're giving our kids the opportunities to see things that they maybe wouldn't see when they're not with us.
Maxine Drew, your comments.
Okay, thank you. I do agree with you that traditional education has drastically changed since January of 2021. And what we have to try to do as a board is try to maintain consistency within the education. I can remember when I was teaching at West Middle School and we had a new principal. And my question to him was, what are you going to do about the problems that exist? And his response was, it's not what I am going to do, it's what we are going to do. And one of the things I learned at that time is whatever we put into place as a board, we have to be consistent with it, because we have to recognize that there are going to be some positive things that come up and there are going to be some negative. But if we stay on the path of producing a positive way in which our students can be educated, if we stay on the path producing a positive way in which our teachers will engage in teaching, if we stay on the path of producing a positive way in which parents will be actively engaged to work, we are going to be able to build our human capital to be able to bring about greater success. Will everything work? It may not. But the thing that we have to do is to keep pushing forward, to keep moving, to be able to have a favorable outcome that will be consistent. And not only will our students see it, the parents, the community, and we also need to engage them a little, all three of those entities within, so that we can bring about a change. We may not have 100% of success, but in listening to everything, what everyone has said that is present here, if we work together, we will be able to bring about change within our school district. Thank you.
Next, we will move to JD Rios with his question. JD?
Good afternoon, candidates. Appreciate you taking the time to answer our questions, and again, appreciate your willingness to run for a very important position on our school board. My question, first, just a little preference before the actual question. Wednesday afternoons were the advent of what was called First Things First. For those of us that have been around a while, we know what that is. I don't know if some of these younger folks know, but at any rate, it was called First Things First. And it was for staff development purposes to raise student achievement. And during the first 7 years of First Things First in the Wednesday afternoons, student achievement did raise dramatically. Then it plateaued. And then even before the pandemic, there have been some slight declines in our student performance. Now, given the pandemic, there's been a loss of valuable class time and academic progress. Has the time come to put back the Wednesday afternoons toward student time? Because there are professional learning communities in our schools which are for staff development purposes, job embedded. This is what private industry does. This is what other school districts do. So given that history, is the time now that we bring back Wednesday afternoons to the students. Thank you.
First, we'll go to Maxine Drew for her comments. Maxine?
Thank you. Didn't know you were going to come so fast. I have to say that I was a part of the school district when Wednesdays were set aside, and I was not in favor of it, but as time progressed on, I saw how beneficial it was. And I'm grateful for being able to hear the fact that, yes, there was achievement in the beginning. And I can agree that it seems that since the pandemic, there has been a shift. What I believe that we need to do is to sit down and look at the results of that information and make a decision as to whether or not we need to move forward. I like the idea that Wednesday is a time in which there could be some engaging activities that we can bring forward so that our students can be involved, like job training or being able to prepare themselves for college. But it's going to require the district to be able to get some feedback, not only from the students, but from the parents, but also the community, and find ways in which we can promote additional learning for our kids. If we make the decision that our students are not being very productive in having Wednesday off, then I think we need to make a decision as to whether or not we will continue with it and redirect it, whether it may be coming back into the classroom for a full time for our students to be within the school system. Thank you.
Rachel Henderson, your response to this question.
Yeah, so my response to this question is yes, whatever we need to do to increase student achievement, let's do it. Do I think that Wednesdays, reinstilling the other portion of the Wednesday is the answer? I'm not 100% sold on that. I know that we as a community have a huge ask in front of us to rethink about how we provide education today. We have folks asking us about night school, so students have the opportunity to work during the day because they have now taken on some of the financial needs of their family. We have students who need credit recovery, and so they would like to do that on the weekend. And so for me, yes, I want to prioritize student achievement, but I also want to think about, there is a school in Denver, Colorado, or a district, they only go to school 4 days a week. And I also, the other piece that I would add to this when I'm thinking about students and the makeup of families and the way that that is our staff. I believe now more than ever, our staff needs that Wednesday time. And so in order for them to prepare, for them to have this professional development, the best way for our students to achieve is by having staff that is prepared and ready for the day. And so if we take this opportunity away from them, what does that mean? Where do we embed all of this time? And so I think there are many moving parts to this. But I do think that, hey, maybe it's we put Wednesday back and we're out of school every other Friday to allow for those opportunities. And so I think we have to be creative. We have to see what the data tells us. But I'm also very cautious of data. So I love data nerds. I love folks who geek out over that. But we have truly been in unprecedented times right now. And so the data is not going to be our honest truth. Our data is going to be every single person in America, in the world, that was impacted by COVID. And so test scores and those many different things, those aren't true depictors right now because we have all these other social issues taking place. Yeah, I think there's many moving parts, and I'm interested in a conversation moving forward with all constituents to see what those thoughts would look like.
Okay. Angeline Howell, your remarks.
As far as Wednesdays go, I would like to see our Wednesdays change to an informative career day for our middle and high school students. And what I mean by that is to have different parts of the community, different businesses, to have people to come in and tell and talk about what they do, what their educational experiences has been, what they needed far as education, whether it was college, whether vocational technical, whether it was something that they could learn in high school, so that the students will have a better idea of why they need math, why do they need science, how does it really relate back to the job that they are interested in doing. And there are other jobs besides being a doctor, lawyer, a fireman, a police officer. There are, nurse practitioners. There are different fields in the culinary arts world. There are different fields in hospitality. Our students need to know all of those things. And we could take that Wednesday day that they're doing half day and part day and all of that, and give that to the students so that they'll have time to say, oh, that sounds pretty good. Maybe that's what I want to do as an adult. So maybe this is why I need to go ahead and participate in class and pay attention. Those days would also give our teachers time to keep on top of what they need to do, to grade papers, to prepare for, maybe Thursday, Friday, or maybe even prepare for the next week. But the Wednesday could be a whole different kind of day where everybody has time to just kind of sit back and relax and say, okay, this sounds good, this looks good, this is what I need to help our students. These are some of the things that I could use to enhance my education for my students. And so Wednesday could be a whole nother different world. It doesn't have to be, a half day for the teachers for professional development. It could be a learning experience for everybody, because most of our teachers come straight from college into a job, and they haven't had time to experience the work world either. And so that would give everybody the same opportunity of saying, okay, these are some other fields of interest, and these are some of the things that I can relate to for my students in my teaching. And so I think, we could change things so that our students would at least have a better understanding of why they're learning the things that they're learning.
Okay. Wanda Page, your response.
First,
Wanda?
I want to thank Mr. Rios for that history. I think everyone needed to do that. And myself, Mr. Rios, and Ms. Drew, we were there when we started First Things First. And the key with First Things First, it was supposed to be a smaller classroom. And that's the piece that we never perfected. Because when I retired, I averaged 35 to 40 kids. And you can't be that effective with that number of kids. I believe that we should bring the Wednesday day to an end and use that time to focus on math, reading, writing, and basic skills so that we can help our kids improve. Because the reality is the state legislature, it's nice to say, oh, we need to do this, but they're looking at one thing in terms of funding. That's those reading scores, those math scores. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do the warm fuzzy stuff. We got to do that too. But let's be realistic about who's giving the money out, and they don't look at that for us. I wish they would, but they don't. That's the harsh reality. And as a teacher, half the time I thought the professional development was phenomenal. It was excellent. And the other time I thought it was a waste of time because the people doing it weren't prepared. And I would have rather been in my classroom working with my kids, trying to help them. And I just think we need to rethink it. But I think we should end it. And we got to work on getting our kids up to par, because I've talked to too many students who go to college and they'll always say, Miss Page, I spent half my time trying to stay up and catch up. And that shouldn't be something we hear from our kids, that they're trying to stay caught up and catch up with what they missed. When I went to college in '74, we were behind. When I compare myself to the students who were on the East Coast, West Coast, they were doing portfolios before we even began to talk about them in the 80s. So we want our kids prepared. We're not where we should be, but we got to remember that state legislature, they're not looking at that. And we got to work on the reading scores, the math scores, everything, as well as the fuzzy stuff. That's good. But we got to be realistic about who's giving the money out. But I would say, yes, we need to end the Wednesday and do something else with it so that we can help these kids help themselves. whether they go to college or not. We want them prepared to do anything they dream and hope of doing. Thank you.
Dylan Todd, your response to the question.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the question and also for the history with it, JD. One of the things that I can, and just from hearing everybody's responses, one of the things that I do agree with is figuring out ways that we could still use, what we have built, like what we already see in place, and be able to build on and just think about it in innovative ways. I definitely do agree with both points of being able to think creatively on how we can use these Wednesdays, or vice versa, trying to think of different ways that we can leverage out the Wednesdays with other days to figure out what else we can do. But also being conscious of our teachers' times and being able to provide that time for them. So with that, some ideas that come to mind and with my personal experience. So I mentioned that I started my internships when I was 12, 13 years old. And I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm also a Kaufman alumni. So within those years, in sixth grade going forward, I remember the things that really impacted me, and those were the college visits. Those were figuring out the ACTs or SATs and what that meant, and breakdown of different networks, events, and workshops that they put on us. I essentially was going to school after school, right, for a couple of years within growing up in YCO USD 500. However, the great thing was that I got a little bit of everything, and it would be great to have that exposure point for our students. I think this is when leveraging our community partners is a big thing, being able to say, who can we bring in to be able to host a session that is going to give them an exposure, or that is going to take them somewhere else, that's going to give them a different type of experience that maybe they didn't think of or couldn't even realize that it was possible. Let's be honest, a couple of our students, sometimes their families can't go outside of our cities or even outside of the state. So there's a lot of things that we still need to be able to show them that they can do beyond, really show them those horizons, right? The other thing I think of is, we talked about technical schools, we talked about different programs that could come after, but other things that we could implement, and I briefly mentioned it, was the field trips. And again, thinking of places that we can take our students to get exposed. One of the biggest things that I noticed when I was an organizer at El Centro was that we didn't have our kids at the Capitol. I saw all these other schools, classes going and showing them different things that were going on, whether it was a hearing, whether it was a voting, whether it was just going and noticing all the different artwork and history that the Capitol holds in itself. It was something that now looked attainable to them and that they knew it was close by home. And I wonder why we couldn't provide those things for them. We do it during elementary, but what about middle school? What about high school? What about going to the art museum just for, to go see what other things are available? We talk about bringing in individuals that are doing things in the community. They are getting exposures in our community. A lot of our artists from our community have exhibits in Nelson Atkins Museum right now, right? So how are there ways that we can connect these things that are already happening and really show them the value and the essence that they already have? And also another big thing that I can think of is, we've seen schools that use some of their time to be able to partner up with other nonprofit organizations or local stores nearby and provide that job experience to our students. And I think that would be great to showcase them other ways that they can be effective in their usage time and also build their resume at the same time. Even within building their resume, they're going to be building their networks and connections, which to me came very much in hand when I had to figure out my pathways into going to college and figuring out what FAFSA meant. And again, I think about first generation, and there's so many other ways that we could also be helping them out and getting college prepared for them to know their resources when they go to school, regardless of what level they are or how they're coming in. There's so many places and so many things that are happening and groups that are able to help them and uplift them when they need it. So yeah, I can think of many innovative ways that we can use those times in being able to be more productive and effective on the things that we bring forth to our students and their families and our teachers, being able to provide them that time and take that off their shoulders and being able to leverage our community partners.
Thank you for your comments. Now we'll move to Eleanor Jefferson for her next question, and we'll start with Dylan Todd. Eleanor?
Thank you, and thank you, candidates, for coming and spending this time with us. My question has a little bit different take to it because the school board's wings are broad and they expand over many areas, and one is the library, particularly the downtown library, which is close to me. There are some of us who are now in our senior years, and we were teenagers, or sometimes just barely teenagers, when that library was built. And listening to the responses here too, what you're involved in, the teachers, the school board, and other staff, it's a very complex issue. It's not simple. It's not simple at all. And I admire you for coming up with these innovations. But what concerns me is that there's a resource that is in downtown that is antiquated, and it's underutilized, it seems to me, because it doesn't have the resources, the space to expand and to accommodate and to be attractive, not only to the student population, but also to the parental population, the parents. The college is coming downtown, and it's coming downtown based upon the demographics that are in the Northeast, the demographics in the Southeast, and in the downtown quarter. So coming back to the downtown, I'm understanding, because I was part of the engagement of the community, that the final feasibility study is complete. It shows that building a new downtown library is the thing to do. There has been people who have volunteered and will want to volunteer to do the capital campaign fundraising. I understand that there's money set aside so that this would not be a burden to the taxpayers. And so, since it's an underutilized tool, it's an ancillary learning resource that is it seems to be devalued, and a partner that's willing. My question is to you, the school board candidates: why not? Why can't that decision or decisions necessary in order to move forward with a 21st century learning center in downtown Kansas City, Kansas, with the demographics that exist in those surrounding zip codes and in those census tracts? Why can that not be leveraged to help you and your teachers in your quest to raise the educational level of the USD 500 students? Thank you.
Dyslin, your comments.
Thank you, and thank you, Nora, for that question and even bringing that up. I'm actually very happy that you brought that up, because I know libraries are a huge asset. I've used them in so many different ways, and in career-wise, in my personal life, and just during my growth. And I know a lot of friends who do value libraries in itself and what it brings for them, because I feel like that's their safe haven at times. I have friends that really love spending time at the libraries and learn a lot and can find different resources. I even know that libraries help as places for, I believe, programs like Spaces, where kids need to use different resources, and they even take them there, right? So I think your question is right. I think that there is a possibility, there is a way of leveraging it out, and I hope to be able to bring that awareness and have those conversations with my colleagues in the board, because I do know the value that there is in there. Again, you said that it could help our students, our teachers, but it also helps our families in so many ways. We talked about mental health awareness as well, right? Like, this is where we literally have that spot where all our families go, and they know that it's a good place to be at. They know that they can get resources. They know that there's welcoming faces in there, right? But beyond that, I think for our immigrant families, they know that that's where they can find those ESL classes. They may know that that's where they can find those resources lists, right? Those citizenship classes that may need. And I know that this goes within our families, but that directly impacts our students as well, because these are added factors that they're dealing with at home, right? And we talk about mental health. These are the things that we can't control from our space, but we definitely can provide spaces that they can have those resources to, be able to get a hold of them or be able to create those connections as well. Like you said, I think that the libraries do bring a great environment, because I've even used them whenever I had interviews. Right now we're using the virtual world, and some of us, we may have the computers from our schools, we may have the access to Wi-Fi, but we may not have the space, and libraries do provide that space. I've rented out one of those spaces to have an interview for a job or an interview for a presentation, right? So there's so many things that I think our libraries do bring forth to us. There's so many resources, and they do help out in those factors that it's not directly connected to our schools at times, but we can use that as another source and another factor to be able to bring in those resources that our families and communities need. Even our teachers, there's sometimes that I know there's a lot of, I know that they do a lot already, right? And I know that they serve even as sometimes secret keepers for our students. And I know that to have an extra space where they can send them to be guided at and to be able to get the help that they need, especially when there's things that are maybe really outside of their reach, it would be a great place to have that support for them, to know that they're not alone in trying to figure all this out in our community, and that we are thinking of other spaces to be able to help them out as they're helping out our students as well, right? And again, even thinking about tools and resources, how can we even leverage out that with already the gem that we have? So there's so many different ways, and I do agree there should be more talks about how we can better use and effectively support our library systems.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wanda Page, your response.
First, let me say it. I hope no one takes what I say out of context. I grew up going to the libraries. My parents couldn't afford a lot of things. They bought magazines, newspapers, but all that they couldn't purchase, we all had a library card. It was 9 of us. So I know libraries are important. But my concern, we have $20 million in our library account. From the architects that presented proposals, it would take about $70 million to build that new library. Now, my concern is this. I'm not saying that they aren't of value, but we got to remember, how are we going to pay for this? And what do we have to give up to get it? So I want to go back, because this is something we've been talking about on the current board. Someone that says, well, let's have a bond to secure this new library. Now, keep in mind that our median income in Kansas City, Kansas is $30,000 in comparison to Johnson County, $90,000. And we're still in a pandemic. So how do we pay for this? And you have one group of people saying, yes, yes, we want it. And then we have another group saying, yes, we want it, but we got to keep in mind, where is this money coming from? And we got to keep that in mind. We have our UG, and I was in meetings when they offered. They brought some people in. They said they would fund that library. But right now, we own the library. We don't have to pay rent. But if we give it to these businesses, they will take over, they will build the library, and then we turn around and pay them. Personally, I have a problem with that. I don't think we should have to give up so much. And what frightens me is when I look at Cerner out at the Legends, that's empty. If it hadn't been for KU, who came in and took over the EPA building, we got to be careful. We want it, but we got to make sure, what are we giving up to get it? And then if UMB is willing to give us the building, but they're not willing to put money into the building. If the 3 of us each gave $35,000, UG, school board, and UMB, we could have that building and not be such a tax burden on the residents. I was in a meeting when they asked people, well, what do you want your library to look like? And they went on and on. No one ever talked about cost, and cost is a factor. I want it, but I want it to come not as a burden on the taxpayers, because we still got a group saying, oh no, we're paying too much in Wyandotte County. And then you have another group saying, oh, we need to do this. Yes, we need to do it, but should it be such a burden on the taxpayer? And that's what frightens me. And I still say UG, UMB, and our school district could pay for that building together, not be a burden on the taxpayers. And we shouldn't have to give up our building and then turn around and pay somebody 30 years for that building. We've done too much of that. Our government has. So we got to figure out what works best for us so we can provide that, but also not be a burden to the taxpayers, because they didn't talk about the cost as much. And that's the part that scares me the most. How do we do it where we come out and still own this building, still not pay an arm and a leg, and not sell our soul to a company? Or are they going to really have the investment and really support us? Because Cerner, that's scary, what happened there. And that would have happened with EPA if KU hadn't stepped in. So we want to be financially, fiscally responsible. And I know some will say, well, she just doesn't want. No, I want a library. We need a library. We need one with all the things they talked about in the plan. But the financial part scares me the most. Thank you.
Angeline Howell, your response.
Ms. Jefferson, can you repeat the question again? I got part of it, but I'm missing a piece, I think.
Basically, because it's kind of wordy there, and basically it talks about the library being a practical ancillary resource in the 66101, 102 areas, in the same geographic area that the college is entering in order to build its new building. And it has the behavioral health, and it have other kind of services. I'm understanding that the feasibility study says that a new library would be cost effective rather than trying to patch up this library that's pretty old. And let's see here, that it would be, let's see, and that some money has been already set aside and for that, as well as there are entities, individuals and entities that are willing to help do the fundraising. So the question I have is, since what you're engaged in and what you will hopefully be engaged in, what exists right now, is a very complex subject. It's very complex, and today's enemy is not making it any easier. Just seems to me to have a latent resource and not one that can be pumped up and bring up some of these global services and resources is a waste. So that's basically is what needs to be done. What needs to be done? How do you feel about it? Would you be supportive of the library and committed to finding a way to get one?
Okay. The one thing that comes to my mind when we talk about funding, raising money, and the cost factor is the UG, I know, gets money for different areas of our county right now. Just like our Northeast area is supposed to get, a certain amount of revenue based off of what is earned out at the racetrack and what is earned out at the Legends area. None of that money ever seems to funnel back this way. So my concern would be, as we raise money for a new library, who's going to be in charge of the money? Who's going to make sure that that money raised for the new library stays for the new library and not become part of the UG? We needed the money, so therefore, we take it and we spend it on what's needed currently. My other concern is the taxes. We already pay a lot of taxes here in 66101. We have plenty of tax abatements going on out at the Legends. If we provided another tax abatement for this new library, who pays for it? The current tax-paying citizens now are paying for everything, and companies are coming in, literally taking advantage, making their money, and when it's time for them to start paying taxes, they sell out and go away. So our money here in this Northeast end never ever gets to us in the way that it should get to us. We do need a new library. We do need some resources for the new library, but also the new library needs to, I believe, provide not only books, but also this virtual world that's out there. You know, we virtually can communicate with people in China. We virtually can communicate with India. We need, if we're going to do a new library, those resources need to be so that our students can actually do virtual and not just say, oh, we're going to build it, and when it's time to build it, we don't get it, which means that you've taken our money, but you haven't provided the resources and the sources that you promised to give us. So we need, yes, the board, I guess the school board is supposed to be the overseer, but the school board needs to also have a group of people that would help them, a panel of people, a coalition of people, whatever you want to call it, another source to work with them to make sure that this new library becomes what it's supposed to become and represent all that we want it to, and make sure that the school district isn't on the hook for the bill, that we don't go back and say, okay, now we have to pay rent, as Ms. Wanda Page said. We don't want to pay for something that we already own. That doesn't make sense. That's just like saying, Ms. Jefferson, we're going to take your house and we're going to charge you rent for it. That's not fair. You know, we're going to remodel it for you and then decide that you got to pay us rent later. You know, some rent that you can't afford. The school district already is paying plenty of money out and not getting a lot of return for our educational dollars. So I would say, yeah, we could get a new library, but we still need a coalition of people to oversee it besides just the 7 people on the school board. The UG needs to have some written contract saying they're going to be responsible for this amount of money and actually have to be responsible for that money coming back into our school system. Resources that come back to helping our students and our families, and provide the resources for mental health and the college and all the other entities that have a stake in it. Everybody needs to pay their fair share and have some representatives to help make sure that everybody is included and everybody is represented, and those dollars are there to represent, those dollars follow with the representation that they're going to send out.
Thank you.
So everything's possible.
Rachel Henderson, your response.
Yeah, so I'm going to be very transparent. The school board is in the business of educating students. We are not in the business of building multi-million-dollar, new facet, world-class library facilities. I am an advocate. I don't know how the structure began. We're the school district. We are one of, I think, one of 3. Okay, 3. Thank you, JD. I'm still learning my education around this in the nation where the school board oversees the library system. I would like to advocate that we look at what it looks like to make the library system its own amenity. And so it is a standalone operation and no longer falls within the school district. And I don't say that because I don't believe that it adds value to our community, but I do believe that the stage in which the library system is in and needing to be innovative, needing to have business people at the table, we need to leverage the advisory board members that meet separately than the school board members to either begin to create relationships within the community to take on this project. What I heard and what I don't want to do is to leverage the fact that KCK needs a new library that's the reason we have to have another bond. As it was explained, is the library system cannot have a bond unless the school has a bond. And what I continue to hear in our community when we're having conversations about public structures and local government is that people in Wyandotte County want their taxes to be lower. And while I believe that Wyandotte County residents support providing world-class venues and opportunities, I don't think that coming out of a pandemic, the first thing the school system should be doing is saying, hey, we want to have a bond that includes this, but the biggest piece of the bond is the library. And so I want to continue to educate myself because I don't know all of the ins and outs, but I do want to continue to look at that. The other thing, and what I've heard community members say, is those outlay monies, we've been collecting those monies for years from taxpayers. We need to strategically invest in something at this point. Folks, how would we feel if someone was collecting money for a project that we said we were going to do 20 years ago and we've gone nowhere with it? And so I think it was exciting to hear that that almost a third of what the cost of the project would be covered out of that outlay dollars, and there's a percentage in the library's budget to be able. So almost 35,000, I think, is where we had got, where the board and the financial experts had gotten to by the middle of that meeting, was that we had almost half the money to build this new beautiful thing, but where does the rest come from? So I do think, like, if we can't move strategically on separating the entity, we do need to invest in something. And if that investing in something is upgrading the current building that the school district owns, then let's do that. If it is investing in property to build on in the future that has nothing to do with downtown KCK, let's do that. But I do think the community does want the financial responsibility of the school district to spend that money in the time frame that they said. I think we have to make some type of decision on that. So
Thank you. Maxine Drew, your comments.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be in compliance with what Wanda Brownlee Page has said, that we have addressed this issue as a board. When she and I first came on, we were discussing ways in which we can try to improve the library downtown Kansas City, Kansas. Prior to us coming on board, there were many factors that had been addressed previous years as to what could be done, but events kept happening and it was not really fully addressed. One of the things everyone has to be aware of is a part of the land that is directly next, excuse me, next to the library is Native American land. We can't touch that land, not at all. Whatever is there, there's a cemetery, it has to stay there. And one of the things that we had addressed was trying to buy the property that is next to the library at 6th and Minnesota. Situation came up, we were not able to purchase it. When it was reached out again, the price increased. That's an issue that we're getting ready to address. Wanda's already mentioned the fact that we've tried to meet with the unified government to be able to make some type of agreement to be able to address it. We've talked about renovating, tearing the building down and rebuilding in that area. It is going to make some changes. There were other suggestions that were made. We are in the process of making a decision as to what can be done at the library. A lot of the materials that are in there are old and outdated and no longer available. So it's an issue that we are going to look at as a board. Will it happen overnight? No. We are in the process of trying to take the time and to put in place a plan that can work. But what we want to do, as Wanda said, is limit the taxpayers from having to give so much money toward this. Partnering with other companies, other businesses, and even with the unified government, it's a process that is going to take time, but we are trying to bring it to fruition. Education is very important. The library is important for our students to build that connection in that Northeast area, not only for students, but also for our community to be able to utilize that. They're going to renovate the downtown area. Our library needs to be a major area where people can come for different reasons to be a part of it so that they can learn how to read, who can make other connections, as well as using the materials that are within the building. So will this happen overnight? No. Do we want to increase taxes? No. But a decision has to be made by the board. I think it's very important for us as a board to have the library and make those decisions that will be able to generate students not only on the downtown area, but in other areas within our community to be able to understand the importance of the library. So our main issue, as Wanda has mentioned, is funding. We will have to sit down, build partnerships with the city and other corporates in order for us to be able to bring about a change. But more importantly, there's land we cannot touch that is near there. Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll move to closing statements. And we will first call on Maxine Drew. You have 1 minute, Maxine, for your closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you all giving me an opportunity to be here, to be able to express what I've been doing. One of the things that I have learned as a new board member was to listen and learn. Even though I taught for 35 years, I looked at myself as a student, as a part of the board, to be able to understand what my role is, recognize what the policies are, and make the right decisions by listening to all of the stakeholders, parents, community. We have strengths and we have weaknesses. But one of the things that I've learned is that we have been very positive in trying to move forward to do the right thing. My theme is education to the max. That's what I'm expecting everyone to do, to be able to vote for me so that we can educate our students, our staff, and then work to get to the max, which is the top of where we want to be as a school district. Thank you.
Okay. Rachel Henderson, you have 1 minute for your closing remarks. Rachel?
Awesome. Again, I just want to thank the organizers of today's event. I am encouraging folks to vote for me because we have talked, we as a community, we as a nation have talked about diverse individuals being at the table. I represent the parent, the young voice of parents in our school district. I represent someone who has been involved, who has been at the table to bring together voices of not only parents in the community, but students. And I do that through my volunteer work, my commitment to the organizations that I've worked for. And so I am asking you to continue to create a school board KCKPS that reflects the community that we serve, and vote Rachel Henderson on November 2nd or before. Early voting starts tomorrow.
Thank you. Angeline Howell, your closing remarks. You have 1 minute.
Thank you to everyone that's asked questions that has allowed us to participate. I am the candidate who will work for you, the students, for you, the parents, and you, the community. I will promise to keep you informed as to what is happening on the board. I want my seat to be your seat at the table so that we all can have a better educational system with a new 21st century curriculum so that we all can learn the same thing and to progress together. I am Angeline Howell, running for school board, and thank you so much for having me tonight.
On to Paige, your remarks, closing remarks. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to thank everyone who was on the panel, Mr. Bland. And again, I got involved in this whole educational process because I wanted to improve the quality, make sure that our students get a quality education. I believe in student achievement, accountability of our school programs, community communication, parental involvement, and really this year more so than ever, we have to work on social and emotional growth of our students. They've been through a lot. They've shown that they're resilient, but they need more from us. And we got to really put forth that effort to help our young people, to help our staff, to help our community become better, because we have something to offer. And we have had a lot of great people to come through our schools who've done phenomenal things, and we can continue that growth so that we can call out the Larry Drews, or we can call out the young lady who's over, I can't think of her, the McGee family, and their contributions to our district. So we've had a lot of people do a lot of good things, and we have to continue to work on that. It's going to take our teachers, our families, our students, the board, and I think we have an excellent superintendent, and she's going to do some phenomenal things. So if we all work together, we work for the good. And just remember, get on the right page with Wanda Page. Wanda Page, November 2nd. Don't forget it. Keep it in your mind, keep it in your thought. Wake up and say, Paige, what page am I on? And you're going to say, Wanda Page. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. Now we'll go to Dyslyn Todd for her closing remarks. You have 1 minute.
First, I want to say, thank you to our hosts, our sponsors, and everybody that was behind this to make this happen, and for everybody in the audience that's taken the time to virtually, see this and listen and inform themselves about everything that we stand for, and everybody that's made their comments today. And I want to say, vote for Jocelyn Todd. Vote for Todd on November 2nd. There is a lot that I want to say, but a vote for Todd is a vote for change. That would be the first naturalized youngest Latina voice if I'm able to, if and when I get into the seat. I will bring my experiences and the stories that I've heard with me and the grassroots approach that I'm really passionate about. So please vote for me. Vote for Todd. It's a vote for the voice of our community. Y recuerden, vota Todd. Es un voto para nuestra comunidad. I want to be able to bring in everything that I have and all my skill sets and everything that I can bring in my energies going forward. So I know there still may be some questions, and I know I didn't answer everything, so I encourage you all to visit my website, thetoddusd500.com. Like Rachel said, early voting starts tomorrow, and all the links, if you may need them, are on my website. And also there is my Facebook, The Tot for USD 500. Everything is the same, so if you want to get in contact with me, go email me at dtot4usd500@gmail.com. So vote Tot on November 2nd, vota Tot en noviembre 2. Gracias.
Thank you. And thank all the candidates and the panelists. We are adjourned.